Hello, in this video we're going to learn how to move keys in both the time slider and also in the graph editor. Okay, so I've got my select all button on Maya, so all of her controls are selected and I can see them in the graph editor. I've also got my time slider visible. Let's look at how to move some keys in the time slider. So I can go Shift and left mouse button drag, and here I've selected the first two keys in the scene that start at 8 and 16, and if I move this these two middle arrows, the yellow arrows in the center, you can see that I am moving this range of keys both in the time slider, and it is reflecting the same in the graph editor. So that is one way to move keys. We can also select these keys in the graph editor and have Shift selected, middle mouse button, and move them in the horizontal, and then we will be moving them in the time. You have to be very careful in the graph editor not to click up and down, because that, as you see in my perspective window, that is changing the value of the keys, not the time where those keys are. So once again, Shift left mouse button drag will move a range of keys, and we can also select the whole range, the whole animation, and move that as well. Be aware that moving the center buttons on that is very important, because if we select all the keys, or even just some of them, and we select the outer arrows, you can see in the graph editor and in the time slider that those keys are now being scaled. And that is a very handy tool for scaling your animation. However, it is different than moving them. Whenever we scale animation, anytime we make a scaling operation, you always want to make sure you double click on the whole range that you scaled and snap those keys. As you saw them move both in the time slider and the graph editor, because now we are snapping those keys onto whole numbers. Before, if I just Z out of there, you will see that our numbers were not whole. And you can notice that if you go into your preferences and turn snapping off, and that's time slider, setting time sliders. I'm going to turn that off and save that, and then you can notice now that I can navigate to these keys that I just scaled, and they are indeed not whole numbers. We've got decimal points, and now we've created some really complicated keys. 15.64. I don't need that, and that creates a lot of problems when we render, and also for editing it creates problems. So I'm going to snap those keys, and now we will go onto those keys, and hopefully we are landing on whole numbers. Yes, so we don't even know that, so I'm going to go back here and turn snapping on, save, and now, yeah, so now we're okay. So that's something important to be aware of. So we need to be aware of all elements that interfere with our workflow and either help it or complicate it. So even if snapping's on, and if you scale something, it still can land on decimal point keys, depending on where you let go of your mouse button after you've finished scaling. I hope that helps and you understand how to scale. And